At long last, the electoral reform in Hong Kong was finally ushered in when the Hong Kong Legislative Council promulgated the Improving Electoral System Bill 2021 in April this year. The new legislation seeks to improve the Hong Kong's electoral system, including the election to the Legislative Council, as well as the method for selection of the chief executive in the forthcoming election. The long overdue electoral overhaul is to ensure patriots administering Hong Kong and plug the loopholes that allow foreign powers to interfere in Hong Kong affairs. The naysayers, particularly those from the West, have been embarking on a global vilification campaign against the electoral reform in Hong Kong. Just to cite one or two examples here that could put us in a clearer perspective. The scrutiny of candidates' eligibility was called into question by the critics. But the fact remains that the eligibility requirement for lawmakers in Hong Kong actually are no different from other parts of the world that elect lawmakers through democratic election. No legislature in the world would ever allow a candidate to enter the electoral race without vetting through his or her candidature, nationality, as well as allegiance to the state. No democracy would ever compromise on its lawmakers' political allegiance to the state. By accepting this as a norm of democracy in the West, but calling it an oppressive or undemocratic move when applied in Hong Kong, if this is not a blatant, malicious bias against China, what is? Another case in point is the redemarcation of directly elected constituencies that have been revamped from 35 to 20. Again, the diabolical smearing of such a move has been rampant in the Western media, and the critics were quick to draw the inference that the move is intended to suffocate the universal suffrage in Hong Kong. The truth is, under the new electoral rules, anyone who wants to contest the Legislative Council election will have to secure at least 2 nominations from each of the 5 sectors of the Hong Kong Election Committee, thus raising the bar for potential candidates. This shouldn't be viewed as a regression of democracy, but rather it is now more representational, and it helps to plug the hole for easy entry for many populists who don't even have adequate political representation into the race. Under the past proportional representation system, some lawmakers in Hong Kong could even win the seat without securing more than 10% of the total votes polled. This has raised a big question on the credibility of their political representation. All in all, the electoral reform in Hong Kong might serve as a rude wake-up call to those who are still obsessed with the colonial past. They have to live with the new reality now that Hong Kong is no longer a foreign colony, nor is it a foreign concession on Chinese soil, as was the case of Shanghai in the days before the founding of People's Republic in 1949.